Hello, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about another important topic in leadership communication and leading in hybrid teams. And trust me, it's not about scheduling Zoom calls or sending out those 100 Slack or team messages. It's about connection, it's about clarity, and most importantly, showing up as a leader when you're not always seen in the hybrid environment. Let me hit you with this. 74 percentage of professionals expect remote work to become the new normal. And we know what's really happening around, and especially after COVID. And that's the trend which is going on right now. It is the biggest transformation that we're all going through currently. But here's the real question. Are leaders truly ready for this hybrid world, where half of the team is in office and the rest of them dialing in from dining tables, co working spaces, or even Bali for that matter? And in this episode, you'll get practical tools. You can start using them right now. Real example from the trenches and the biggest mistakes leaders are making even without realizing in the hybrid environment. Because this one, it is really going to change the way we lead in hybrid world. Now let's get into it. All right. When we get into this, the big shift that we are all navigating is the way communication has completely evolved in hybrid work. Now, I want you to picture something. It's a Monday morning. Half of your team is gathered around a meeting room at a table, coffee in the hand, while the other half is staring into those tiny Zoom or Teams rectangles, waiting for someone to unmute. Does this sound familiar? And that's hybrid work in action. And communication, which is the current setup right now. Half at office, half at home. All that you can see is those tiny rectangles on Zoom or Teams. This is a whole new game. Now, how do we handle this? Let's start with basics. The first topic that I would like to introduce is asynchronous communication versus synchronous communication. Before hybrid became the new norm, we mostly leaned on the synchronous kind of communication, right? Live meetings, quick taps on the shoulder. While you walk, you have those hallway chats, impromptu brainstorms, which is happening in the cubicles. So these were what was called synchronous communication, which was happening in the in person setup. But in the hybrid setup, we need to go intentionally build asynchronous communication. That's emails, recorded videos, shared documents, things that people can consume and respond to their own time across time zones, work schedules, or even energy levels. Now, here's the shift. It is not about everyone being online at the same time. It is about everyone being informed at the same time. And that's a huge shift when we talk about communication in the hybrid model. Because what is happening right now is that not many of us are available at the same time, at the same space. So, what's important for a leader when it comes to communication is that everyone needs to be informed at the right time. And that becomes a challenge as well, isn't it? When leaders cling on only to live calls to feel more connected, they end up exhausting their teams or unintentionally they exclude the remote folks who are joining in. So, the first skill to sharpen for you as a leader is knowing when something needs to be a meeting and when it doesn't need to be a meeting. Now, let's talk about something we rarely think about, but it's silently influencing everything we are talking. I want to introduce you to digital body language. Yes, that's a real thing right now. The pauses in your message, the delay in your reply, the use or lack of emojis that is happening, the abrupt okay, sure, with three dots that comes our way. In face to face communication, what happens is that the body language fills in the gaps. But in digital communication, we have to work a little more harder to fill those body language gaps intentionally. Because here's a kicker: your tone doesn't come through the way you think it does. And without a clear tone, your intent obviously gets lost. Now, to reiterate this, let me tell you a short story. A manager, let's call her Aarti, sent a message to her team on Teams and just said, please share the report by EOD. This is urgent. Totally normal, right? That's what we are seeing right now. But here's what her remote teammate read. Why haven't you done this already? You're behind. You better hustle. Why? Why did the person who is operating from remote could read a message to you've not done this, you're behind, you better hustle? Why did he understand it or comprehend it that way? Because there were no indicators of the tone, no thanks in advance, no smiley, no warmth. So the team panicked. One person even skipped lunch to meet the deadline. And Aarti, as a leader, she had no idea that the stress that she has caused to the team until there was this weekly feedback check in which happened. So, digital tone matters, especially when your voice, your face aren't in the room. So, let's start understanding that there's something called as digital body language and start working on the warmth. How do we convey our warmth through the messages that we are sending to the remote teams? Another big challenge, the third thing that I wanted to highlight is proximity bias. That's the unconscious preference for people we physically see more often. In hybrid teams, this bias creeps in too fast. We start unconsciously rewarding those who are in office or more visible, more praise, more opportunities. We tend to do all of that to people who are there in our physical space. Not because they are better, but because we see them, because they are visible. Meanwhile, what happens to your remote rock stars? They are quietly left behind. This is where leaders need to build those conscious equity into their communication. Start rotating who leads in the meetings. Call on the remote voices first. Tap into people who are joining remotely. Make wins visible across all the locations, not just office walls. And let's not sugarcoat it. Miscommunication is the silent killer of hybrid teams. We are all typing faster, multitasking harder, and assuming intent when none was made clear. And intent is not something which can be understood by people who are joining in remotely. Let's look at another example. One leader I worked with sent weekly updates to their team, but he always used those bullet points, no greetings, no closings at all. And what happened? His team read that as cold and a transactional email that came in every week. Some even felt anxious getting those emails as if they were in trouble. When he simply added, hey team, hope your week's off on a great start. Here are key updates that I have for all of us. Thank you everyone for doing such a great job. And guess what? Just a simple line that got added, everything changed. The emotional temperature of his messages start warming up. So did the team's engagement. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans behind the screens. And communication is what keeps human communication alive. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this is a lot. Do I really have to change my whole style? The answer is not overnight, but yes, intentionally. We need to start changing how we are communicating, especially when it comes to the new transformation, to the new normal, which is hybrid teams. Think of communication like a muscle. In the old world, we are trained to in person weightlifting. Now, you're being asked to do a CrossFit, right? Digital, hybrid, flexible, adaptive. There's too many things, too many ways in which our workplaces are evolving. So, what do? You don't have to panic. We just have to retrain our muscle to better fit, to better adapt this new way of working. Let's start practicing empathy in the team's messages. Let's start building trust in the Google documents that we are creating. Let's express presence even when the camera is off. And that's going to be a new standard of leadership communication. And once you get intentional about it, it starts becoming that second nature for all of us, like switching from walking to biking, different effort, but the same purpose of building strong teams and moving forward. Now, let's make a quick recap on the core shifts we just recognized. Let's talk about the traditional office setup that we all had so far, and now to the hybrid leadership model that we have to adapt and start practicing. Earlier, we had synchronous only meetings that we had. Now, we need to work with the balance of asynchronous and synchronous communication. In the traditional setup, we had physical visibility, and that created trust. Now, we should start intentionally building that equity for both people in present and for remote people. In traditional workspaces, we had body language cues. Now, let's talk about our digital body language, our tone, our empathy through emojis. In the traditional setup, we looked at office chat, which was a great way to connect with people. Now, we should start digital rituals and create safe spaces for people to thrive in hybrid environment. Earlier, one size fits all messaging. The messaging communication was very easy. Now, as leaders, we should be more customized and create inclusive updates for people who are operating in person as well as people who are joining remotely. And that's something that we should all start practicing today. And this isn't about perfection, it is all about progress. You don't need to be that loudest voice in the Zoom or Teams. You need to be the most clearest, most intentional, and very importantly, the most human as a leader that we are. So here's a reflection for all of us. What's one habit that you've carried from office days that no longer serves you in your hybrid team setup, which you're currently leading right now? Think about it. Talk about it with your teams because awareness is the first shift and practice is the next thing. And when we continue to practice, we all become the masters of communication in this world. All right. With that, let's move on to the next segment on how to build trust, visibility, and connection in a hybrid world without micromanaging or even burning out. Now that we have unpacked how the shift has happened from traditional workplaces to the hybrid workplaces, now the hard truth many leaders face in hybrid environments is that they think they are being very visible because they are on every Zoom call, because their names is in all the emails. But ask the team, how many will say that I don't really know what my manager is thinking? I don't know if I'm doing well. I'm not sure where I stand at work. See, visibility in hybrid work doesn't come from showing up more in meetings and more in the emails. It comes from showing up meaningful. Now let me break this down for you. The first one is your visibility as a leader. You don't have to flood the calendars to be visible. What works better is rhythmic and predictable touch points with your team members. One simple and yet effective strategy is weekly check in rituals. Now, I recommend a combo of two formats. First is asynchronous check ins. Every Monday, send a short email, post it in your team's digital space. Share your focus area for the week, quick wins from the last week, and a quick thank you for performing better. Even better, invite team members to reply with their priorities too. This not only gives a pulse check, but it also creates visibility without needing a meeting. And we all spoke about why meetings are not very important in the hybrid space, right? Because the more the meetings, the more burnt out people will be feeling. The second topic about visibility is live check ins. Once a week, do a 15 or a 10-minute sync. Turn cameras on if possible, but more importantly, turn on the empathy. Keep it human. Start with non-work related questions like what's happening, what how is your weekend looking, what's something which you're really excited about work. So start with such human questions at the start and then go into your project meetings. This is one way where we can touch on the human side with people who are working remotely. This combo is a predictable asynchronous and an emotional sync, and this is a pure magic when it comes to hybrid leadership. For major updates, also try short video messages. Yes, just hit record and send a video message to your team members. This is a great way to connect as well. And why would I say video messages? Because the tone, the energy, the authenticity travel better than that block of text that you're going to speak about. And your face builds the trust with your team members that not just that block of messages that you're going to send, this is going to go a great way, right? So next time, try sending a 90-second video that says, "Hi, team. Just wanted to give you a context on this decision and thank you for your efforts." And this particular 90-second video can really go a long way in helping your people feel more connected with you and amongst them as well. Now, the second topic is building psychological safety. Now, let's talk about psychological safety. That's the very foundation of trust in the teams. Psychological safety means your team feels safe to speak up, challenge ideas, and admit mistakes, or to even say, "Hey, I need your help." And that's psychological safety in teams. And here's the kicker, in hybrid teams, it's easier for people to stay silent. Why? Because there's just one mute button away from being disappearing from the meetings. So now, how do you build psychological safety in your teams? Start by creating a safe space for real dialogue to happen. This means regular anonymous feedback loops. It could be your Google Forms, it could be the feedback polls that you're going to roll out. And the second one is dedicated open space meetings just for check ins or reflections. The third one is norms, where disagreement is not just allowed, it is invited. Because let's agree that disagreements is where brainstorming happens and innovation begins. So start making it a norm where disagreements can happen and there is a respectful brainstorming which gets followed. And one of my favorite tool is intentional question. At least once a week, ask your team, "Hey, what's that one thing that you're struggling with that you have not called it out loud yet? Or what's that one thing I don't see, but I should know?" See, these are certain points that the team will start talking more loudly and bravely, and you as a leader can figure out what's happening behind the invisible curtains. And these questions open doors. They signal that as a leader, you're not just managing tasks, but you truly care for your team members. And when you get those answers, don't just jump in to fix or even judge what's happening. Start with thank you for sharing that. And that is one thing that can bring psychological safety into your team. Because when people feel heard, they're more likely speak again. And when people start speaking again and again, that becomes a culture and that brings a team together. And that's when you can build high performing teams on the basis of psychological safety. Now, the third highlight that I wanted to make is engagement in hybrid meetings. Let's move to engagement, especially in hybrid meetings. If you've ever been in a meeting where office folks are chatting away and remote folks are just simply sitting there and blinking into the cameras, you know how easy it is to unintentionally exclude those people who are joining in online? Here's a simple but a powerful fix that can fix this issue. Include the remote voices first. When you start a meeting, say, let's begin with those joining remotely. What's your view on this? It absolutely shifts the energy. It tells your team, we don't just see you, but we value you. Other ways to improve your hybrid engagement is that start rotating the facilitators so that remote team members get a chance to lead meetings, even remotely. Start using collaborative tools like Google Jamboard, Micro. So everyone's participating visually and they're following what's happening. Acknowledge contributions in the moment. Start saying, hey, great point, Ashwin. That perspective really helps. Remember, hybrid meetings are not about just about perfection. They're about intention. If you're worried you're not doing it right, it is okay. But the whole intention of talking about it is to start doing it right now. Because the trust happens in the micro moments. Let's bring it all together with one powerful truth. Trust isn't built in grand speeches of a leader. It is built in the micro moments that you share with your team members, be it meetings, be it your emails, be it your Slack messages. It is built when you reply thoughtfully, when you see and acknowledge the effort of your team members, when you say, I don't know either, let's figure this out together. These are the ways in which you can actually be building trust with your team members. These are those micro moments. One of my mentors once told me, you don't need to have all the answers as a leader. You just need to be real enough to your team to believe in your intention. If you're being real, then your team will start believing in your intention. And hybrid leadership is not about being perfect at all. It is about being present in ways that matters to your team member. So here's what we can start doing this week. Start with your asynchronous communications and live check ins because this is a simple Monday ritual that you can be bringing in as a leader and start being visible to your team members. How about sending video messages with key updates so that let your team see your face and feel your intent? Intentional questions. Create safety through curiosity and not by control. Ask questions. Ask a lot of questions with real intention of understanding what is happening in the team, and that will give you a pulse check of the team. Another thing is prioritize the remote voices in the meetings. Start with conversations to include them and not to exclude. And most importantly, look for those micro moments because the small gestures you build are the ones that build big trust. So, with that, let's move on to the next segment. We are now going to shift gears and talk about the tool mastery right now, the right communication tools on how to get that tone in the digital world right. And the key to making sure you're not just being visible, which we spoke up until now, but also being impactful. The what we will have to talk about is building visibility, trust, and now we are stepping into the practical tools that we need right now. Choosing the right tool for the right message. So that's the number one point for all of us. Choosing the right tool for the right message. Every hybrid leader needs a communication toolbox. And more importantly, they need to know which tool to use when. So now let's break this down. Three most commonly used tools in hybrid teams. First is your Microsoft Teams or Slack for quick, informal, real time communication. Think of this as a digital version of popping into someone's cubicle and, hey, here's my quick question. Hey, this is the progress that I'm doing. Or even your casual check ins, right? So the next time you want to do this casual check ins or quick questions, start using your Microsoft Team or Slack because they are meant for real time communication. But here's the trap, don't expect deep thinking or long term tracking to happen in this particular chat window because it's quick. So, if something needs alignment or documentation, this is not your tool. This is only for quick check ins. The second tool is email for formal, structured communication. Now, you can start using emails when you're making an announcement. You need to share a detailed context. You're summarizing key decisions or your meeting outcomes, such as your MOM. Because emails give you a proper structure, it gives you a paper trail and space to be thoughtful. But let's not overdo email communication as well. Keep it clear, keep it scannable, keep it human. When I mean scannable, keep it very short so that people can just look at it and understand what has been written in one glance. And please do not write a novel there. Nobody wants to read 5 paragraphs about a schedule change which is happening. So let's keep it clear, scannable, and human. And that's email communication. Now, the third ways to connect is through your Teams call or Google Meet or Zoom. For your high context discussions, for alignment that you have to do, for brainstorming that you would like to happen. So use this when something has a lot of emotion behind it. You rather would not like to write an emotion. There's a conflict, there's a lot of emotion which is happening. You don't have to choose email communication for it. Quickly schedule a meeting for it if there's too many emotions attached. The second place where you will use your meeting is your brainstorming or more collaborative decisions that you will have to take. The third thing is you sense there's a potential for misunderstanding. It is better to communicate in a meeting when you know that there could be a misunderstanding that can lead in. And obviously, being there, present, showing your face, your body language, and voice will help us fill in a lot of gaps, thereby eradicating misunderstanding which could happen. So, the golden rule is if your message cannot be afforded, can't afford to be misread by people, you have to say it out loud. And saying it out loud is by scheduling a meeting because your voice brings empathy, your facial expression brings that nuances, and that's exactly where your meeting wins. And think of it like Slack for speed, quick communication, email for structure, when you have to give structured information, and Zoom for more long term communication and for communication which needs a decision making and collaborative discussion. So that's the number one topic which we should start bringing that in our communication toolkit, choosing the right tool for the right message. With that, we'll move on to the second topic, which is create communication norms. Now, tools are all great, but without norms, they absolutely can turn into chaos. So, here are three quick norms even every hybrid team should even consider doing. Response time expectations. Define what quick means. And we spoke about the three topics, right? Sending out a Microsoft Teams message or email or a meeting. If it is a Teams or a Slack message, the reply has to happen within 1 or 2 hours. If it's an email, 24 hours. Set the standard so that your team operates together. And so nobody is left guessing when they are especially working from remote location. The second is message clarity. Ask your team to lead messages with intent. Start asking requesting input for your information only. Urgent, needs reply in 1 hour. Always start your message, your communication with the intent at the starting. Requesting input, requesting approval, requesting information. So these are several ways where that one sentence can actually save your 10 follow-up messages, especially working in hybrid spaces. And the third thing is read receipts and reactions. Encourage people to give a thumbs up or a done emoji when they've seen something. It reduces the stress, it reduces the ambiguity, especially for the remote team members who wonder, did anyone even see this message or not? Right? So having such rules around the way your team communication should happen is the second point. Create communication norms. The next one, the third topic is tone. We spoke about digital body language, and tone is everything. Now, let's get into the tone, possibly the most underestimated leadership skill in the hybrid environment. In face to face work, your smile, your posture, your tone of the voice will really help you. But now, you're mostly in that small rectangle screen or between that lines of text on a page, right? And how do you ensure that your tone builds the connection instead of the confusion which can actually happen in remote environment? Always assume positive intent. Start with always. When someone writes noted or forgets a smiley, don't jump to they are being passive aggressive. Instead, ask what might be going on. Assuming always a positive intent behind the line block of lines that your team members sense saves relationship and the sanity of the team. The second one is warm up your words. You can still be professional and warm by greeting people in a more professional environment. I appreciate your time and thoughts. Thank you very much for jumping in on this. How is your morning going on? So these are certain nice sentences that you can actually warm up with your words. Another important thing is also to start using your emojis. And yes, emojis are absolutely okay if your office culture allows, because emojis add emotion, especially when the tone can be easily be misread. Putting just a small smiley goes a long way, and a clap emoji can actually uh, soften instructions, and it can celebrate the smallest of an effort that the team members can put. So emojis go a long way, but do check if your office culture allows you to use it. And it can really help you in building that voice with your team, in building that tone with your team. So don't over communicate context, under communicate confusion. One thing I always want to remind the hybrid leaders is that when in doubt, explain more, not less, because context is the king. Because you need to communicate to your team members when the change is happening. What does that decision mean? Who all needs to be involved? What is going to happen next? And these are certain critical information that the leader has to be sharing it with their team quite often. So always it is okay to go overboard and do a lot of communication than do under communication, because under communication creates confusion, second guessing, and often leads to office gossip as well. So, in order to eradicate all of this, start with more context that you can share, the clarity that you can bring in with your teams, and always stay in the communication lines as much as possible with your team members. So, the next toolkit that we have for communication mastery is three phrases to stop using in hybrid teams. Let's take a quick detour and have some bit of fun, right? So here are certain three phrases that are totally outdated in hybrid communication and what to say instead. There's one thing which we often say, let's sync offline. Seconds, it's very mysterious, right? As to let's sync offline. When, what, how? Please say instead, let's schedule a 15-minute call tomorrow, one on one. I will send you the calendar invite, or you send me the calendar invite. So the next time, don't say let's sync offline. Say when, what, how, who will send it. Second phrase is you probably already know. And this particular phrase immediately puts instant pressure and alienates the other person. How about we say, just in case this didn't reach you earlier, here's a quick recap and this, and this. So don't say you already know. It builds a lot of pressure for the other person. And the third phrase is as discussed. Oof, this one sounds passive aggressive, even if you don't mean it to be, right? Instead of saying as discussed, say following up on what we spoke in yesterday's meeting, attaching the notes for reference. Let's remember, as hybrid leaders, clarity beats the cleverness. And the tone is a leadership superpower, especially in the text world. So, yes, here it is. Let's do a quick recap on the tool mastery that we have gotten so far. So, here's a quick checklist for all the hybrid leaders out here to level up. Start using the right tool for the right message, be it your Slack messages, be it your Teams meeting, be it your, what was the third thing? Emails that you want to write for structured messages. The second thing is set your communication norms very clearly, define expectations, response times, clarity codes. The third thing is assume positive intent because when the tone is not clear, assuming positive intent saves a lot of your work relationships. And the fourth one is warm up your language. A little empathy goes a long way, especially through words. Hi, how are you? How are you doing today? I loved the idea that you shared today. So these are certain ways that quickly warm up just using your words. The fifth one is outdated phrases you need to ditch out. Always seek clarity. This is when I call you 15 minutes tomorrow on the Zoom call. You will send out a meeting request. Be as clear as possible. And the sixth one is over communicate context. It is better to be over communicating than under communicating. Let your team feel informed, not blindsided by the least of communication that you're doing. So the next time you send that quick message, pause and ask yourself, is it clear? Is it kind? Is this a right channel that I'm taking to communicate? Because in the hybrid world, your words are your presence. Your tone is your leadership voice. Right? So, with all of that which is happening, start doing the right things and scream it out to the teams that you value them. And you, as a leader, you're present, you're visible, and you're being there with them all through the time that they're working on their projects and the tasks that they are doing. Because leading in hybrid meetings or in the hybrid space, that's actually productive and inclusive. And it is more like an art if you are intentional about your communication. So always go prepared to your meetings. Before the meeting starts, take that time to connect with people, warm up your body language, your voice, warm up the people who are sitting behind the screens, make them feel more connected. And during the meeting, Involve them, ask them for their opinion, ask them for their decisions. And that will become a total game changer when it becomes to hybrid setup, because we as people, as we discussed, we all have that bias for people who are sitting next to us. And we often forget who is sitting in the remote places. Let's work on our biases and we work on our equity with people. And that will again be an absolute game changer that can come in. And the next one is start using your tools that we have mastered. We've spoken about so far, the six quick tips that we have spoken about. That again will go a long way in terms of how you warm up your team. With that, I leave you with a quick mindset shift. Don't aim to be perfect in your hybrid meetings, just aim for purposeful ones. When you prepare with intention, when you facilitate with equity in your mind, when you follow up with clarity, you show your team that their time, their voices, their ideas, no matter where they are logging in from, it does really matter. We are going to land all of what we have discussed in the last 40 minutes, what we have discussed from communication strategy to meeting strategy with a bold call to action from our new leadership era, which is waiting for us, which is in the hybrid setup. Let's start looking into various aspects that we have discussed today and start making small and intentional changes when it comes to communicating with our team members and keep the teams very lively and build the psychological safety that we will always have to be doing. So I would invite you to reflect on what all we have spoken today, because whatever it is, commit to that one small shift that you want to do, because the small tweaks is what will lead to a transformational leadership. And that's very important for where we are and how we are navigating the hybrid chaos together. With that, thank you for connecting. And that's about our hybrid workplaces and leadership for the same.